So this is the first of the kind of like Reels overviews. In one of the Reels overviews, I'll be showing how to speed ramp and how to do a little bit more on kind of a graphics front, and I'll talk a little bit more about like shutter speed and all that kind of stuff. This one I'm just going to talk about some real basics and essentials. I'll talk about the one to add graphics in the last video, I think. But again, I'll add to these if we come across some more interesting ways to do things. But what we're going to look at for this one is this video, which you should have seen if you watched the intro video, but this is the actual Premiere file here. I'm going to set an in and out here, and just so you can see it, and a smart thing to do is always use an in and out if you don't know how to set an in and out. Once you put your timeline slider to a point, you can hit I on your keyboard. It'll set an in point, and then if you hit it on the other side, you can hit an O button, and it's the out point. What that allows us to do is we can click this little button to loop playback, and then as soon as it gets to here, rather than going to the beginning of the timeline, it will just loop to the beginning of your in and out. So this is what happens. There we go. So it just jumps right back to the beginning, which is super convenient when you're editing because there's a lot going on. Now, I'm going to mess this up a little bit because I want to show you just like what it would have looked like kind of originally, and then ultimately what it looks like here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new sequence and go new sequence. I'll explain this in other videos, but just for redundancy's sake, if you don't know what a sequence is basically like a part of the larger project. So even though this is all a big project, each one has a sequence within it, and you can make multiple sequences. It's really nice because then I don't have to ruin my original project here, which I have this over here, which is what I was editing and cutting. So then what I can do is just copy all of this, or if I want to start from scratch here, which is what I want to show you, I'm going to start with this one. It's C0086 is my file. So I'm going to come into this sequence and say C0086, drop it in here, and it's going to say this clip does not match the sequence's settings. Change sequence to match the clip settings. I'm going to say, let's change those in this case because I want to show you what that looks like. Now again, it's a really quick clip because it was just this motion. But what you'll notice is in my original sequence, it's a vertical video, and in this sequence, it's a horizontal video. In fact, the horizontal video sequence is 3840 by 2160, and that's that 4K. If you remember from the introduction, I talked about how if you shoot in 4K horizontally, you can rip 1080p vertical images really easily. The reason that's helpful is because if you just were to watch this, and I'll mute it here, but if you were just to watch this, it looks good. There's a lot of context there, which is interesting. But you know, it's a pretty wide shot, which is how you want to film it, because then you can clip it as a really tight shot, and it looks more like you're actually following the person. So in this one, for instance, without the music, you can see it looks like the camera was right on him. And that's done through keyframes, basically. So we have this person, but if we want a tighter look at the person, then what we can do is work with our position and scale. But the first thing we want to do is actually set it to the sequence settings that we're going to want. So if I want a vertical video, what I need to do is go up to sequence, sequence settings, and then change this from to 1080 to 1920. And it's going to say vertical 9:16. And if you remember from the introduction video, I said this is the ratio that you're typically looking for in most video production. So we're going to say OK. And it's going to say like, this is going to mess up things a little bit. And I'm going to say OK. Because now I have this vertical video. But notice if I go to 10% and kind of zoom out, if I double click my video, that's the original 4K. So this is exactly what I'm saying, is you can fit basically 3 vertical 1080p videos inside a 4K video. The nice thing now is we can actually zoom in. So I can pull those tabs and I can get our soccer player kind of right in the middle here. This is pretty good because I know he's going to come closer to my screen as he moves forward. Once I've done that, and this is something you would learn in the Premiere tutorials, I need to start keyframing. So the first thing I want to do is say position and scale. I want to set those keyframes. Once I do that, I get these little dots right here. Then what I can do is on my keyboard, I want to go forward in frames as the person goes forward and see what the video does. So fortunately he takes a turn there, so I'm still good, but if right there I lose kind of the moment that I want. So what I need to do is go back. I'm using the left and right arrow on my keyboard to go forward and backwards frame by frame. And right here, I want to make sure the frame is on him. So right here, I'm going to set a new keyframe, but watch what I do. I double click this and see the markers right there. I actually want to pull this forward, and that way he's now in the frame. And what's going to happen is this keyframe to this keyframe, it's going to slowly change the position. Then what I need to do is go forward in the video and see what happens. We start to lose it again, so I'm going to double click this and then pull it forward this way a little bit. And then I'm seeing now the whole kickflip, but it's kind of tight. I don't want it that close in because I feel like I'm losing some of what he does there. So right here, I'm also going to go to my scale, and I'm going to go to 10% so I can see my whole thing. Because as soon as you adjust that scale, so I'm going to drop it back here. Again, notice a keyframe is set. So basically, if you do adjustments here, it automatically sets keyframes there, which is a lot easier than trying to use these sliders or something. So you can just adjust it right here. Then I can move the frames forward, and now I get to see the whole move, which is great. I lose the ball, so I could here go in even further, but honestly, like, you're just going to lose the ball no matter what because it's going out of a vertical frame. But I do need to push this forward. So I'm going to double click it and then start moving it as he's moving. And I don't really need his back leg. I want the ball. So we know he's already kicked it, and then he's going to go to here. I think I moved him too far back on this one. If you want to go from keyframe to keyframe, like I think I moved it too far, use this arrow or this arrow. And I can go to the previous keyframe. This is where I moved it too much, I think, so I'm going to double click it and actually move it forward a little bit, and it'll overwrite that keyframe. Then he's going forward, he gets the ball, and right here, that's like the move is kind of over. So I'm actually going to go back to my fitting, and I'm going to clip it here, and then I'm happy with basically this. Like, he's done kind of the interesting part of the video. So here's what we have. Okay. And there he goes, and then that's cool. Again, this part though happens really fast, so I want to slow it down. So to slow it down, we use speed ramping keyframes. So right here, I want to speed ramp it. So what I have to do is on this FX, if I left click it, if I right click it, I can go to time remapping and say speed. And then under the speed, what I want to do is I want to control click here. And then I want to go to the last move, the last part of it that I want to speed up. Maybe right there. Like once it goes over, right there, he's beat the defender. So I want to click it there. And then what I can do is left click and pull down on here, and you'll see it get bigger. And I want to go down to like 50%, we'll say. And that way now it does this. Okay, it slows down and then he kind of goes. Now, I could leave it like a harsh shift like that, and it looks fine. Or what I can do is I could actually zoom in here even further to really see this. And if I click on these, what I can do is I can separate them. Like, so you get like this little like left and right piece of, it's almost like a shield shaped thing. And if I click the left or right piece and then left click and drag, it will make a ramp. And so you end up seeing this kind of ramp that basically just gradually slows it more than just harshly slows it. So it's very subtle, but it'll make it a smoother transition. Then I could click between it. If you click between it, you get this little rotator, and I can grab on the rotator and I can twist it. So there we go. So the more I twist it, the more you get kind of that that bend in the ramp. Sometimes it's a little finicky sometimes, but I'm just clicking and turning kind of left and right. So there we go. So now it'll be like this. There we go. And it kind of has that ramp feeling where it speeds up. So that's how you basically speed ramp, and I crop that, and then I'm going to add a black screen. Now, a lot of people don't know this, so this is a really good one to pick up if you're unaware of this. You have all of these really good items down here. You can click these items, and it dropped down below, so sorry if that gets cut off from you. But under those items, I'm actually going to pull them up here so you can see it. I'm going to put it right here. Okay. So usually this is down here, but just so you can see it, I'm going to click New Item, and then I'm going to say Black Video. This is also where you get bars and tones in case you want that like bleep sound. So here's bars and tones. If I say, yeah, that's great. Bars and tones are this thing, you know, and it goes there, and then it says beep, and it comes with the beep sound. So you don't have to provide that or find it. You can also, though, just do black video, and this is very helpful because you can add just a black video in here rather than just having the black screen. Now, if you ever are between two clips, it will just default to black screen, but at the end of it, it won't. It'll want to just finish. So this allows it to still work. I just lost my camera, so ignore the camera there. We'll just keep going. But this allows it to create black screen. That way then you can add some graphics. So what I always do is I grab all of my video, and then I right click it and I say new bin from selection video. I have all my video that way, and then I need my logo, this animated logo, this Judge Media logo. But in case you're like, well, where do I get that? If you double click it on the Z drive, you'll find it under graphics, and I have kind of a backup of that, so this looks very similar to what you would see, which is under media production. If I go to graphics, it's not there. If I go to the Google Drive, shared drives, and then if I go to advanced media production, and okay, if I go to the Google Drive, then I go to shared drives, and then if I go to assets for Judge Media, under here there's a graphics folder, and there's a whole bunch of graphics in here that you could grab, but right before that, under assets for Judge Media, there's an animated logo right here. There's also the bottom right logo, and you can just use that as well. But the animated logo is nice. It's very convenient. A former student named Clark made that. And I'm going to add that as a new layer above this black layer. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit on my timeline and just make it nice and small, and then zoom in. And I accidentally set my in and out there, which I didn't mean to do. And now I'll get that logo coming in as the Judge Media outro logo, the animated logo. Now, if you don't see it, it might be that it got cut off. So this is the one that kind of rolls in. So you could use that one, and then just make sure you get the part that actually is there. So we could go like this, and then boom, like that, and it's in there. And then that's where you could also add the score for the game. And so there you get that, and it looks very much like this one. Although I didn't use the rolling one, but I added the score there. The last thing you might want to do is get music. So again, your options are you could get it from Instagram or from kind of YouTube. The danger of that, of course, is that you end up with potential copyright issues, which is not good. Because you can get sued, and it costs a lot of money. You don't want to have that. Or really what happens, we haven't been sued for music copyrights. What happens is like Instagram will just not show your video. It'll just cut it down. And this happened in TikTok this summer, where a whole bunch of videos just didn't have sound anymore. The video is still there, but there's no sound. And that's not what you want for this kind of work. So what we're going to do to get music is we can go to Artlist. I've already downloaded it before, so I could click on my downloads and find it. And you can just kind of listen to things and see what it sounds like. Depending on what you want, there's just a lot of options here. But obviously, typically with a video like this, you want something that kind of ramps up. So the music I ended up choosing is this one. I think it's like J like alphabet or Bramgog. So, but the reason I liked it was because it ramps up right when he does the action. So here's what that sounds like. So right there, the beat drops as soon as he does the move, and that makes it really interesting. So you all listen to a lot of great music that I'm sure you're interested in trying different things, but that's one of the ways you can do it. One of the things I've seen students do that's really cool too is basically doing cuts to the beat of the music. That can be amazing. Just find the music first and make sure it's what you want to use and it's appropriate and all that stuff. But then once you're there, it's pretty much done. You're good to go. Then you just have to export it. So hopefully we know how to export. And that's kind of the end. So that's the end of this video. In the other one, I'll show you how to do a little graphics overlay.